Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us so early. We are focused today on our Women in Tech Leadership webinar on the subject of feminine energy in transformative leadership. And we have an amazing guest speaker for you today. Before we kick off, my name's Lou. I head up our recruitment team as Recruitment Services Director here at Crimson. We're part of the Nash Squared Group, and I'm also on the Global Diversity and Inclusion Council, of which we have four cohorts, four groups: Nash Pride, FNashT, Women at Nash, and also our Nashability group as well. And we really are quite proud as an organisation to really come together across all of our brands to look at these subjects. And Women in Tech is something that Crimson has done for quite a few years now. Prior to the pandemic, we used to do in-person events and have a lot of people gathering round together to talk through lots of topics. But obviously the pandemic drove us to having more webinar-based events. And I have got about 20 years experience recruiting technology specialists, and the Women in Tech event for me is a great opportunity to bring like-minded people together, IT leaders, to talk about subjects which really matter to them and their own careers. Actually, being a mum of 2 kids, 3 now with my partner's little lad, Rex, who we have every weekend, life is full. It's really important to get that work-life balance right, as many of you I'm sure are aware, but I must admit recruitment and the IT sector has given me all that flexibility over the years. But some of the conversations we're having today will look at some of the energies that we use day to day in how we go about things. So before we start, a little bit about Crimson. We've been going for well over 20 years now. We are both a Microsoft Gold Partner, technology solutions consultancy, and also specialise in IT and digital recruitment services to include contract, permanent and executive search services. We also, as I said, are a Microsoft Solutions Gold Partner, and we work with across about 170 organisations UK-wide, everywhere from higher education to the public sector to retail and supply chain logistics, but effectively UK-wide customers for both our recruitment and consultancy businesses. On the recruitment piece, it's really important to have a good network. So we drive a lot of IT leadership events, webinars and workshops across both organisations to really help ensure that we've got a really diverse and inclusive network, whether we're recruiting for a customer or whether we're hoping to provide a technology solution for them. And we're obviously part of a £1 billion global group in Nash Squared. So a little bit about Nash Squared, 35 years of experience. We operate in over 17 countries. We've got about 49 offices worldwide, with the new brand Flex House and Noldus recently as well, really strengthening our portfolio of both recruitment professional services and also technology and solutions. So really bringing that people and technology piece together. Going a bit fast there. So as I mentioned, Women in Tech events for us is all about bringing insightful speakers to life, having really open discussions, no judgments, and very much an opportunity for people to share their experiences, ideas and approaches. We look to find solutions and hopefully lots of hints and tips along the way for people to embrace and enjoy for their own careers. Obviously this event is a great opportunity to meet new people and to network and hook up with individuals, like I said, who are like-minded to yourselves. We like to think that it's important to be part of an inspirational, thought-provoking network, and this forum allows us to encourage people to connect. So before further ado, I'd like to introduce Rachel, who is our guest speaker for today. Rachel is a transformational coach and speaker, but she also has a significant career in IT leadership herself. And I'm not going to read the slide for you, but you'll be absolutely blown away by the energy that Rachel has. So without further ado, Rachel, over to you.
Hello. So yeah, thanks Lou for that. So as Lou mentioned, I worked for a decade as a leader within technology in the financial services industry across both London and New York. So I really appreciate what it is like to be in a lot of your guys' shoes and to be in a boardroom, with 17 men and just you and all the challenges that come with that. So I'm really excited to be here today. So let me share my screen with you all and let me know. So can you guys see that?
We can, Rachel. And before you kick off, just to say to everyone, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand or drop it into the chat. I'll be putting my vanity URL from LinkedIn into the chat. So if those of you who are on the call today want to actually just throw in, you know, who you are, why you're here, why you're interested in this topic, that would be fantastic. If you have any questions along the way for Rachel, we will find natural opportunities to pause and take some of those questions in. But there's a really open discussion. It's fair to say it's a very interactive workshop today. So Rachel will be encouraging all of you to contribute. We will be recording the session, but we will ensure that any sensitive information is taken out of the recording should we then publish that on our YouTube channel at a later date. Thank you, Rachel. Sorry to interject there. I just thought
no problem. Yeah, this is a meaty topic, but we're going to do our best. And as Lou said there, to get the most value from this, I would throw yourself into answering the questions, getting involved, contributing. That's how you're going to walk away with a different understanding and a different application in your life. So let me start off here. So today I'm going to start off with letting you know who am I, how the hell did I end up here talking to you all, and help you understand kind of a bit about my own journey and how I got to where I got to. And then we're going to look at, well, what is masculine and feminine energy? Then we're going to go into a bit of a mini workshop just to look at what the unhealthy and healthy expressions of each look like. What's the main problem that I see from my position as a coach, and what is a solution for that? And then hopefully I'm going to have time to bring you through a mini exercise to really bring this all to life for you. And then I've got an invitation for you all. So before we get going, can I get a 1 in the comments, just so I understand who we have here? Is give me a 1 in the comments if you've ever experienced any coaching before, and give me a 2 if it's brand new for you. 1, awesome. Okay. Now give me a 3 in the comments if you're somebody that considers yourself someone that has a very busy mind, or maybe perhaps a bit of an overthinker, or spends a lot of time in your head. Give me a 3 in the comments if you identify with that. 3. Okay, we're getting some 3s. Awesome. Okay. What about if you're somebody that, if you're really honest with yourself, puts other people's needs before your own a lot of the time? Give me a 4 if you see yourself there. Okay, this is good. Okay, good. We're in the right place. This is going to be for you guys. Okay, and then one last question for you. Give me a 5 if you're somebody that finds yourself often striking that battle between the standard you want to achieve versus the one that you are achieving, which you don't feel is at the level that you want to be at. Give me a 5 if you see yourself there. Okay, right. Okay, we're all in the right place. This is going to be suitable for you. Okay, good. Okay, so let's start off with, so who am I and how in the name of God did I end up here? So I actually used to be a professional dancer. And one thing you may not know about the dancing world is that the most important thing for you as a dancer is to be in the middle at the front. And in the dancing world, there's no such thing as HR. So your teacher is God, which means there's no, they can do whatever they want. There's no repercussions. And in order for you as the dancer to be chosen to get that coveted in the middle at the front position, you need to be perfect. And if I'm not perfect, then I'm irrelevant. That's really what goes on when you're a dancer. Another thing that's really prevalent in the dancing world is that criticism is the best possible thing that you can achieve. Because when you're criticized, it means that the teacher sees you as being someone that is worthy of receiving their attention. And in that moment, you're kind of in the middle at the front of their attention. Being ignored isn't great, but the most challenging thing is receiving praise. Because when you receive praise, you're at the receiving end of so much jealousy. So it kind of creates this very weird relationship with criticism and praise. And when you grow up in this vocational career from a very young age, and there's a lot of pressure attached to it, Nobody teaches you how to process or handle your emotions. You know, they don't teach you that in school. They definitely are not teaching you that in dancing or at home. And the way that I learned to cope with the pressure was binge eating. And I held a lot of shame around that for a number of years. But there's some key lessons that I really learned from my time in the dancing world. The first thing is, people in positions of authority have more control over my life than I do. Perfectionism is required in order for me to succeed, but not my, and be worthy, but not my definition of perfectionism. Criticism is great, praise is bad, and pressure and emotions need to be suppressed in order for me to succeed. And the thing was, even though I left the world of dancing and I moved into the rest of my life, those lessons carried with me into every area of my life. So in my corporate career, you know, when I was in tech and I was in that leadership position, even though I was thriving in comparison to my peers, you know, I was the youngest female member on the leadership team, consistently getting promoted. Behind it all, my boss was right and I'm wrong. I held back a lot of my opinions until they were rubber stamped by a member of the C-suite or my boss. And I really couldn't own my accomplishments. In my relationships, I couldn't speak up when I was upset. And I oriented myself around everyone else's emotional state. And in my life, I just didn't trust myself to take the risk that I really wanted to take. You know, whether it was starting my own business or moving to another country, and my whole calendar was filled. Give me a 1 in the comments if you notice yourself here. My whole calendar was filled with things that other people wanted me to do, but not things that I actually wanted to do. And one day I had this really profound experience. Okay, good. I'm glad you recognize. So many, I mean, I think it's very common for women. I'm seeing all the ones come up there. So one day I had this really profound experience. I had been on the receiving end of coaching for a very long time. But on this particular day, it was the first day that we worked with what was happening below my neck, and not just with the thoughts that were happening in my brain and how I was thinking and how I was relating to the world. And what I learned was that my body had its whole own language, and that the answers to all of the questions about life that I was trying to answer in my head were just waiting for me in my body. The direction and clarity that I could not find in my head was in my body, and I could make clear decisions. The truth about what I really wanted was inside my body. And the courage that I could never find in my head was just waiting for me inside my body. And this blew open everything for me, because when I knew how to use all of this with everything that was going on in here, I was now able to trust myself. I was now able to take risks. I was able to make big decisions. I was able to take steps forwards into the unknown, even when I didn't know how it was all going to work out. I was able to speak up. I was able to lead difficult conversations. I was able to say no guilt-free. I was able to say a full body yes to what I wanted. And now that's exactly what I help my clients do. So I help them connect to everything that's happening in here with everything that's already happening up here, so they can really build a life they want, so they can build really successful careers, and ultimately they can reach their full potential. So before we move on here, give me a 2 in the comments if listening to that you saw yourself in some of my story and it kind of hit home with you. Okay, good. Okay, lovely. Okay, so this leads us very nicely into what we're going to talk about today. So masculine and feminine energy. So what we're talking about here is, so this has got nothing to do with gender. It's got nothing to do with sexuality. What we're really talking about here is 2 opposing energies that already exist within all of you. You don't need to create it. You don't need to do anything. They're already inside you. And what we really mean when we say masculine and feminine energy is a bunch of qualities, traits, characteristics that are found within varying degrees within all of us. I'm using masculine and feminine energy. We could just as easily call it yin and yang, two opposing forces working within us. The masculine energy refers to the qualities and characteristics that are more commonly, typically associated with a masculine archetype. So we're talking about assertiveness, strength, logic, rationality, independence, goal-orientated behavior, real focus on problem solving. And then we've got the more feminine energy. And within feminine energy, what we're really talking about there is empathy, intuition, creativity, collaboration, emotional intelligence, and a real ability to form deep connections and relationships. And the way that I really like to explain this, that I think helps illustrate what I'm talking about, is using the example of a glass of water. So the glass is the masculine, because the masculine is the structure, the safety, the certainty. It's not moving, it's staying, it's holding space. Whereas the feminine is the water. The feminine is free flowing, and it can be calm and peaceful, or it can be chaotic and powerful. But no matter what, the glass remains strong and safe, holding the water. And if we bring this into the context of business, we need both structure and creativity and innovation in order to thrive. You know, without one, we're not. If we just have the structure, we're not going to be really creating anything new. And if we're just this free flowing mass of, you know, creativity, we're never going to actually reach an end goal. So the key thing to point out here is neither are better or worse than the other. They're just different. Okay. So give me a 1 in the comments if this is landing for you all. And I've still got you all with me here, and we're not going off piste. Okay, 1. Okay, good. Fabulous. Okay. So what is the ultimate goal, right? Where do we actually want to be? So if we want to thrive, and we want to excel, and we want to reach our potential, and we want to have delicious, enriching relationships, and we want to feel fulfilled and feel joyful and just be happy on our time on this planet, there's 2 key things that are really, really, really important. The first thing is that we have a healthy balance within each of us between our feminine and our masculine. So again, everyone on this call already sitting here at 28th of September 2023 already has both of these energies within us. And what we want, the interplay of these energies is going to be different within all of you. And what we want is a healthy balance between the masculine and feminine. Not too masculine, not too feminine. Don't worry, we're going to get into all of this today. We're going to workshop it. So that's the first thing. So really important that we have a healthy balance to be operating effectively. And the second thing that's really important, and this is the most crucial one, and as a coach and as somebody who spends her time supporting really high achieving women in really reaching their potential, this is where I see most people fall down, is so although we possess both energies within us, all of us naturally will have one that is our natural primary mode of operation. And the biggest problem that I see with high achieving women is that they're attempting to excel, leaning into a mode that isn't actually naturally theirs. And what I mean by that is they're naturally feminine, but they're trying to excel, leaning into a masculine way of being. Now, does that make sense? Give me a 2 in the comments if you get that. Can I make it? Okay, good. Okay. So the way that I like to describe this, I think really helps land it for people, is it's kind of like, and what I will say is, while none of this has any link to sexuality or gender, most females that I come across actually are naturally more feminine. And the way that I explain this, I think really helps land it is, it's kind of like you're a bird, right? It's kind of like you're a bird and you've got these wings, but for some reason, you're down on the ground trying to act like a rabbit. And yeah, you can walk around like the rabbit, and yeah, you know, you can kind of like get some food from the ground like a rabbit. But for you to excel, you want to be using your wings and you want to be in the sky. And the biggest issue I see with high achieving women is it's kind of like that. They're the bird, but they're trying to excel in their careers operating like the rabbit. And all of this is about moving you into your primary mode and teaching you how to lead in work and in life with your primary mode. Okay, perfect. So the next question I usually get is, okay, well, if this is all so natural, Rachel, then why the hell am I down there acting like a rabbit? Why am I not in my natural mode if it's so natural? So there's really three key problems or three key things that are going on that stop us or cut us off from acting in our primary mode. So the first one is we live in a society that has been organized around patriarchal power structures. And this is not an attack on men. I love men. This is a societal structure. And in that structure that we live in today, male dominance has emphasized various aspects of life. So in politics, in the way we work, in economics and social institutions, it's kind of perpetuated a culture that elevates masculine traits and by default devalues feminine traits. So we're kind of operating in society where we're trying to excel, and in this society they've said, oh, we care more about masculine traits, so we're trying to excel this way, but it kind of cuts us off from our full potential. So that's the first problem and first reason why we find ourselves cut off. The second reason is, so I spent a year working with Dr. Valerie Wren, and she is the founder of Patriarchy Stress Disorder, and she really looked at what are the effects of the patriarchy on us as women hundreds of years since it has been established, and how does it actually impact us and affect our lives. And what we discovered, if you look back in history, is that hundreds of years ago, when women were far more connected to their primary mode, meaning that they were very connected to their intuition. They had, as a result, a lot of independent thought. They were creative, they were expressive, and most importantly, they stood out from the pack. When you look back in history, you actually go back and look in the books, the women that stood out, because they were so connected to their primary mode, they were outcast, they were ridiculed, and they were really removed from the pack. And as a form of self-preservation, as women, we've kind of learned, okay, I've got to sort of disconnect from the feminine part of me in order to succeed here, in order to be okay. And I'm going to move into a more masculine way of being and expressing myself. But the thing is, that was needed then, but here we are years later, where it is safe for us to actually lead in our primary mode, but we're still trying to excel in a way that's not natural to us. So just give me a 3 if this is landing, if I've still got you all here with me, or are you like, slow down, give me more, what you're talking about? Okay, I'm getting some 3s, perfect. And then the last point to mention here, and this is really, really, really important, because I don't want any of you to, when we get into this workshop, start beating yourself up or feeling bad about what you learn about yourself today. All of us have had our own unique individual experience on this planet. You know, the way that we were brought up, our families, our school, our countries that we grew up in, what we witnessed with our parents. All of this really developed a lot of our belief sets, and as a result, a lot of our behaviors. And there's so much going on underneath the surface of what we're going to talk about today. And today is really a framework to help you understand yourself better. And everything that we talk about is possible for you to change. So I really want you to go into this conversation with hope and with openness, and just to see what can you learn. So these are really the key things going on underneath the surface that stop us being in our primary mode. Okay, so if we move on to now, with that said, Now we're going to go into a little bit of a workshop. So first of all, can I get some, give me like a 1 or 2 words to describe what you're feeling right now. Are you feeling, interested? Are you a bit annoyed? Are you confused? Are you enthralled? Are you get to the workshop? Are you curious and excited? Okay, beautiful. Intrigued, lovely. Okay. Okay, enlightened, lovely. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm glad it's landing with you guys. Curious and enjoying, beautiful. Okay, so guys, masculine and feminine. So we have healthy versions of each, and we've got unhealthy versions of each. And what we're going to go into a little bit of a workshop today is just understanding where can we recognize. Oh, when I keep looking over here, I've got 2 screens. So just in case you think I'm, watching the TV, I'm looking at my screen. So we've got, if you're a human and you've got a pulse, you are going to recognize yourself in some of the unhealthy aspects, right? So welcome to the party. We're all human. None of us are perfect. And for us to get the most value out of the next we'll probably workshop this for 20 minutes or so. My encouragement here is to really jump in, share your stories, and just observe how much are other people experiencing what I'm experiencing too. Okay, so awesome. So let's start off with unhealthy masculine characteristics. So I'm going to give you a moment to read this because I know nobody listens when you get things like this on screen. So take a moment to read this. So what we're really talking about here is unhealthy masculine. So this means someone that is too much in their masculine. You're really talking about very controlling, overbearing, aggressive, over-analytical, overthinking behavior. And I know me, if we looked at me, I mean, I'm a human, so still now, but definitely if we looked at me about 10 years ago, definitely I was defining success and worthiness by the attainment of big goals. Definitely I was over-analytical. Definitely I was controlling. And so my question for you here is share the chat with me. When you look at this, where do you notice yourself? And we're noticing yourself with compassion here. None of this is about making you wrong or beating yourself up or anything like that. It's like, okay, let's acknowledge where we are so that we can then get to somewhere else. And if there's anyone that wants to, I can do a little bit of coaching here. So if there's anyone that wants to come off chat.
I was just going to say, actually, Rachel, when I look at that phrase, overwhelmed easily, I kind of feel that would, for me, sit in more of a feminine energy kind of thing. So it was really interesting to see that there, because being overwhelmed in the moment or feeling like a bit out of control was really quite interesting to see that there. But I suppose if it was, I guess reading that, I'm thinking, well, maybe if that's also forcing then other characteristics. So to be overwhelmed means you're out of control, or you're kind of being very, but so that was a bit of a conflicting one for me. When I read that.
I think the more feminine version of this is being in chaos, and then
sure,
overwhelmed version of this is more the amount of pressure you put on yourself, which is the overbearing control.
Understood. So it is that need to be need to be perfect and need to be absolutely completely in control. So it's being overwhelmed with, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And Lorna, if I'm happy to clarify. If you just pop it in the chat here, I'll clarify if you let me know what your question is. So the question I have for you guys is, when you look at this and when you notice yourself, what I want to know is, how does it impact you? This is a very polite group. Usually I have people coming off mute, like jumping in to have a conversation. So let us know in the chat, how does this impact you? I do beat myself up a lot as I want to do better. Sure. And who else here resonates with what Sarah is saying? Give us a 1 if you're in agreement with Sarah? Or put your hand up or something like that. Yeah. Okay. And okay. And what I want to know is, do you see evidence of what we're talking about here, or all these characteristics in the workplace? So give us a 2 if you notice within yourself and within other people that, okay, yeah, actually, you know what? There's a lot of this that goes on within my workplace. 2. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the questions here that you really want to consider are, if you focus in on, there must 2 or 3 here where you really recognize yourself, is whether you answer it in the chat or not, how does this impact you? How is this impacting your career? How is this impacting your life? How is this impacting your relationships?
Rachel,
Yeah.
I'll come off mute there. And
oh, hi. Oh my God, this is a girl I went to university with. Hi, Sinead. I had no idea you're coming. Hi.
No, I just so I took a year out. I was in the corporate world for like 10, 11 years like yourself, and then I took a year out, and I've recently gone back into corporate. And I've done a lot of work in like on myself over kind of the last 18 months, and like, to be honest, like I'm at kind of like month like 4 or 5 now where I'm just like, my mindset has completely changed from a corporate perspective, and I can like see a lot of like the masculine traits that I'm faced with on a daily basis. And because I've got, I suppose, like values means a lot to me, so I'm very conscious now that I'm in a place where I could potentially lose my identity if I just go along with, you know, the status quo and like just ticking off like what needs to be done. But because of my mindset and all the work that I've done over the last like 18 months, I don't want to. So I can feel more of like my masculine characteristics coming out, but I'm not necessarily comfortable with that. If that makes sense. But it's because I'm like, no, I'm not gonna let you treat me like this, because I'm a person too, and like I have the same value at this table than you do. So it's just something that I've kind of like noticed over the last kind of few months, because like yourself, like I'm in like a leadership position where like I'm sitting at the table. I do have a voice, but it's not like the most powerful voice, I suppose. And it's just making sure that, like, you know, that I'm not being left behind, because that for me is something that could like push me out of the corporate world again, because it's not fitting with who I am as a person, if that makes sense.
Thanks for sharing. So it sounds like there's a healthy part of you that's like, my voice deserves to be heard, but the way that you're going about it is, or the way that it feels that you're going about it is, like I need to sort of push myself here a bit so that I don't get left behind.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Okay, thanks for sharing. Okay, we've got to move on so that we can make sure you get the full experience here. But thank you so much for sharing. And give us a 1 in the comments if you resonate with what Sinead has shared there. Yeah. I think what you're going to experience is, oh, actually, a lot of what people are experiencing here is also what I experience. Okay, beautiful. So we'll move on to the opposite. So what does a healthy masculine characteristics look like? So give you a moment to read this. Okay, so here what we're really looking at is we're looking at, you know, mission, purpose, certainty, very clear on where you're going. So where do you guys recognize yourself already? So let us know. Oh yeah, go on, Louise.
Hi, Rachel. For me, it's very much the ability to be more objective. I've found that I'm a very subjective person in terms of how I feel about things and everything. So I think for the last few years as a leader in my business, it's been really ensuring that I've had that healthy balance of subjective and objective, and making sure that I don't over rely on my feelings about something, and I can actually look at the objective side of things. So that is something I feel that I've probably, I don't know whether it comes naturally, but I've definitely had a focus on significantly.
Yeah. So it sounds like being able to move between your kind of logical mind and your emotional body is
To
really
get that balance, yeah, because I think
awesome.
sometimes my head has ruled over
Yeah.
and my heart has ruled over, but I definitely
Yeah.
have, I believe, focused on the balance of both a lot more healthily in the last few years.
Lovely. Okay. So we've got committed to personal truths, goal orientated, analytical, open-minded. Beautiful. Okay. So a really good example of somebody that leads with healthy masculine energy would be Nelson Mandela, because he really displays, you know, qualities such as courage and resilience. I mean, spending 27 years in prison, not giving up the fight for equality, huge empathy, huge inclusivity in this divided nation, big commitment to justice. You know, he was humble, he was adaptable, a real legacy of peace. And why I chose him as an example here is he's a real symbol of strength and guideship without aggression and control. Okay. So this would be a really healthy example of somebody that is leading with really healthy masculine energy. Okay, now this is usually where things blow up. So unhealthy feminine characteristics. So take a little look at this here to see where you recognize yourself. And I just want to remind you all that everything you're reading on screen is completely manual and changeable. This is exactly what I work with my clients on. None of this means that you're, you know, inherently this. This is just what you're experiencing today. So when you've read this, let us know in the comments where you really see yourself. So I know for me, you know, struggling to receive is definitely one. You know, lack of boundaries is definitely one. There's lots of things there. I have a question for you all, actually. In the past 24 hours, give me a 1 in the comments if you have pushed down what you feel, what you need and you want in order to manage the happiness of someone else. Yeah. This is so, so, so common amongst women. This is a real symbol of being in your unhealthy feminine. Another question for you. Who here deflects compliments? Give me a 2 in the comment if you're like, that's me. I spent years doing this. It's another big symbol that you're not receiving. The powerhouse, the power move of the feminine is to receive. So these are just some kind of examples. And the question you want to ask yourself here is, how does what you're noticing in yourself impact your life? And how does it impact your relationships? And how does it impact your leadership? And I have an example here of, there's a boss that I had. He was a guy, but he worked very in an unhealthy feminine way of operating. And an example of this live in action in the workplace would be, you know, very indirect communication. He would never have challenging conversations with his team members. He wouldn't address concerns openly. Big lack of accountability, so really directed blame, misdirected blame, overemphasis on keeping the peace, and a lot of unresolved issues simmering underneath the surface. Really seeking approval in terms of, he would go to the board with presentations and everything was turned just a little bit greener than what it really was in real life. Very over accommodating, not making decisions. And that's a real example of unhealthy feminine leadership in action. So what do we have here? On unhealthy feminine, I most definitely have been a people pleaser and also constantly used to deflect compliments, but I have learned to receive them in recent years and give them beautiful. Oh, it's Louise. Oh, okay. That's lovely. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So let's move on then to, so is this, what are you guys, what I would love is one word in the comment to describe, what does it make you feel when you read this and you see yourself in it? What's the overriding sort of feeling that we have there? Is it a bit frustration? Is it like, oh, okay, this isn't me, this is actually, everyone experiences this frustration? Yeah. I mean, what I want to remind, not alone, yeah, embarrassed. Well, who is there anyone here? Is there anybody here on this call? So we've got 22 people on this call. Is there anyone on this call? Put a me in the comments if you're like, I see myself nowhere on this screen. Okay. Now, if you do notice yourself on this screen, I want you to put a yes in the comments. We're all on this screen, and I really want to remove all embarrassment because you're just human, and there's gonna be some of this in there up there, and it just means that you're discovering it and you get to change it. And like I said, all of this is changeable. Okay, lovely. Okay, so where do we want to be? So we want to be in healthy feminine. So healthy feminine characteristics. So again, I'll give you a moment to just read this and familiarize yourself. Now, usually,
sorry, Rachel, can I just point out there though from the unhealthy ones? So everyone who just put in yes, though, one of the characteristics was unaware. So everyone was quite aware there. So like that's a kudos there on that one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Good point, Sinead. Okay. So having a look at this. So a healthy feminine is really about flowing, dynamic, effervescent, and really a secret, it is the source of your power. If you want to be powerful, you want to develop a relationship with your healthy feminine characteristics, because that is how you grow the wings. That is how you are the bird. So is there anything here that triggers you? Because usually when I bring this slide up, there's some people that are like, I hate that. I can't believe that word is on there. I really don't like it. Is there anything that is triggering people? So I can explain it and I can help you understand the rationale behind it. Permissive. Okay. So we earthly. Okay. So what about permissive is, would you mind coming off mute, Alex?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, I was just wondering in what sense of the word. I guess it's a little bit of a like an indefinite one for me. Like, does that mean like not authoritative, or does it mean like you let people get away with things? Like, I think I'm not quite sure what degree of permissive we're talking about.
I think it's more about giving yourself permission. Does that help?
Makes sense. Yes, no, it does. It does.
Yeah, okay. So earthly, okay, softness. And this one here, Lorna, there's a big misconception that feminine is just soft. And there is a huge power in softness. So if you take somebody like Michelle Obama, she is compassionate, she is soft, but she is powerful. And softness doesn't mean with the absence of strength. Strength can still be present when there is softness. I'm surprised no one has said surrendering, because usually that's what drives people absolutely crazy. I love all these. This person sounds brilliant, balanced, beautiful. Okay, and earthy. Okay, lovely. Okay, so a question, where do you already recognize yourself here? So let's kind of like start acknowledging ourselves for where we're already doing pretty good. So where do you read this and you're like, oh, that is me. I'm already there. I can own that I am already embodying a healthy feminine characteristic in these areas. Vulnerable, passionate, and caring, beautiful. Passionate, collaborative.
I think for me, Rachel, I think possibly as I've matured as a person and obviously became a mum, and also I can see a lot of the motherly energy and the ability to be very compassionate and very encouraging, all of those things, which I feel like I've always been throughout my career, but actually most recently, probably in the last few years of Crimson, I believe that my approach to how I interact with my team and my colleagues and customers alike is in a little bit more of a motherly, affectionate, encouraging, very, very sort of passionate way, and kind of putting a lot of my own experiences into helping others to understand, so that empathy really comes through. And I do think partly it has been that maturity of life that has helped me to get there. And also probably getting divorced and not wanting to be the person I was, and all of these kind of things has impacted on that energy. But no, I can see a lot of this now in how I feel I've grown, so to speak.
What's the impact of you moving into that more mothering way of leading?
I worry sometimes that I think it's been a really positive impact for both my team and colleagues I work with. I do worry sometimes whether it comes across as a little bit condescending and a little bit too kind of, parent child. So that's a little bit of a difficult thing sometimes to sort of get right in my head, but whether that's just my own personal feeling rather than actually how it comes across, because I do believe it's very authentic, because that's how I feel. But I worry sometimes whether it may come across as like I'm telling someone, what to do but I don't believe so. But that's the balance of just keeping it healthy.
Okay. So let's move on so just some examples here of some women in really leading with their primary mode in a really powerful way would be Jacinda Ardern. She's a huge advocate for empathy and inclusion and collaboration, but powerful and also surrendering. If her baby needs to be breastfed, she's going to breastfeed her baby, and she still stands in her power. And like I mentioned earlier, Michelle Obama, she is compassionate and you're not going to mess with her, right? Because she's got really strong boundaries, not only with herself, but other people. So there's only so much that I can, bring you through today. But what I do every Sunday is I pick a topic, I send out an email, and I give clear, actionable steps on how you can support yourself into moving into more healthy expression, both masculine and feminine. So I'll drop my email list there in the chat, so you can sign up to that if that's something that you want, if this is more what you want to find out more about. So the biggest problem that I see with all the women coming into my office is that they're not really operating in their primary mode. They're naturally a feminine-led being, but they're trying to excel in a very masculine way. So again, neither are better or worse, but when you're not operating in your primary mode, that's what cuts you off from truly excelling. And the symptoms that I see that usually let me know that women really are operating in a mode that is not their primary mode is that these are like the alarm bells that let me know that, okay, you're not operating in your primary mode. So when everybody else is coming first, when you leaky boundaries, there's a difference between how they say they want to act and then the things that they actually do. There's a lot going on in their mind, a lot of analyzing, very high focus on how they're being perceived, very big difficulty in accessing their feelings and emotions, and very unclear in their purpose. So these are usually kind of alarm bells that let me know, okay, what's going on here is someone isn't operating in her primary mode. So the solution is, I would be doing you guys a disservice if I pretended that in 45 minutes we could, change everything that's happening under the surface. I would be doing a disservice to the depth of this work, and I'd be doing a disservice to what you actually experience. But what I do want to do is help you understand the 4 key areas that are really important for you to focus on to support yourself in moving into a more healthy expression of both masculine and feminine. And this is exactly what I do with my clients. So the first is dismantling all the limiting beliefs and patterns that are resulting in a lot of those surface level unhealthy masculine and feminine behaviors. So all the things we discussed today, that's like the tip of the iceberg, and what's happening underneath the surface that's causing those. The second thing is developing a really deep connection between you and your body, your internal wisdom and your intuition, because this is the powerhouse of being able to lead with your feminine. Your feminine is accessed through your body. Your masculine is accessed through your head. So we need to connect you to your body. The third thing is really working with that internal voice. So give me a 1 here if you're somebody that experiences a lot of voices and thoughts that are kind of fighting against each other on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Okay. So what you really want to do here is unify those, get one clear voice that's really supporting you and moving you towards the goal that it is that you want to achieve. And lastly, it's really building your internal compass. So this is learning the language of your body. Your body actually has a whole other language to the language of your brain, the language of sensation. And it's learning how to listen to it, interpret it into information that your brain can understand, and then using that information, that wisdom, to guide your conversations, your negotiations, your decisions, your communications, your presenting and taking action. So when you get these things together, this is what really evokes strength, power, conviction, presence, clarity, and most of all, grounded leadership. So we're not going to have time, unfortunately, today. Oh, the way that I describe this is it's like you've got these supercomputers all over your body, but you're just disconnected. And what we want to do is reconnect you to all those supercomputers so that you can actually use your wings again and you can fly. So we unfortunately don't have time today to do a little embodiment exercise, but what I do have is an invitation to invite you all into. So for the people that have been listening today and have identified areas of themselves that are not benefiting them and that they're actively interested in supporting themselves in changing, what I would like to invite you into is to have 2 exploratory coaching sessions. So I'm very selective with the clients that I work on and that I take on, because this isn't for everybody. So these 2 exploratory sessions, they give you a chance to see if this is a good next step for you, and they give me a chance to see if you're a right fit for this process. I'd love to offer this to everyone on the call, but my calendar is going to get booked up. So the first 8 people, I have 8 slots for this. So send me an email on that email address and just let me know that you were at this talk, and we can put it in the calendar. You get a short application. You'll have 2 coaching sessions. If it's a yes from both of us, we'll talk about how we can work together. And either way, you'll leave with a keen understanding of what is actually going on underneath the surface that's getting in the way of you being how you want to be and acting like you want to act. And so I will leave this by saying the single best decision that I have ever made in my life has been deciding to hire my first coach. It has significantly changed all areas of my life. It's changed my wealth. It's changed my happiness. It's changed my career. It's improved my relationships. And I just feel so much more fulfilled, happy in my power and in my purpose. So if there is a little niggle inside you that is like, ooh, I think I might be interested in that, reach out. We'll have a conversation. We'll see if this is for you. And take this opportunity and run with it. So that is it from me, Lou, today.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. I honestly, I couldn't stop smiling the whole way through that session. Obviously, I kept myself on camera just so I gave you my full attention. And honestly, you just make me smile. You just make everything about everything you say smile, because it's lovely that you were so kind to share your journey with us. I love the fact you were a dancer. I can see it in you. You just look like a dancer as well. I didn't even realize that before, as you know. And I just think you were really just so engaging, Rachel. Thank you so much for that. Has anyone got any questions for Rachel? And thank you for leaving a few minutes, because I think we've got a great opportunity in someone here, and like you say, there's some stepping stones and personal development that people may want to do. But has anyone got any instant questions that spring to mind, or anything they wanted to ask Rachel before we leave? Don't be shy. No, has anyone got any thoughts that they... Oh, thank you. Yes, Sarah, thank you so much, Rachel. Really relatable and engaging. Lots to think about. I agree. Parminder, fantastic. Poppy, thank you so much, Rachel. That was really interesting and helpful for me as well. I think it was really great to understand those words, those behaviors that are typical, and really put them into a bit of a a mindset process, because it's very hard to sometimes dilute and separate that emotional feeling, but seeing it so clearly represented like that really helps you understand that first point. Yes, Lorna, you've got a question.
Yes, one of the questions was, I'm a bit older than most of you here. I've done a lot of work on this, but obviously I see a lot of people that come through. I've done coaching myself as well, that need to go on something like this. I see people coming up in the ranks. Rachel, do you have a workshop of such that, if I recognize that people are battling with this, that they could actually be aware of, and take some experience from that?
I have an in-person workshop on the 5th of November. I can share the details here. So
Fireworks night as well, Rachel. So that's got lots of energy in it, hasn't it?
There we go. So yeah, so this is a in-person workshop that I have coming up in about maybe 5 weeks. It's really a 3-week process, and it's got a full day in-person workshop in the middle of it, which will really help address a lot of what's happening underneath the iceberg that's resulting in those behaviors that are sort of not what you want and getting in the way of you being who you want to be. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
But I offer a lot of, I do a lot of free workshops and things like that, and all that information comes out on my emailing list. So if you want to join my emailing list, there's my emailing list.
That's really kind. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Lorna, for your question there, just getting an extra insight into things that Rachel is doing. I just think it's been really, really insightful. I liked your style, Rachel, as well, with regards to how you interacted with us and just got us all dropping our numbers over there to support the chat. So thank you so much. Let me just quickly share, if I may. I'll just quickly share our contact details with everybody. Okay,
there's
super.
Just one more question there, Lou. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
There's just one more question there from Alex in the chat.
Lovely. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that. Alex, so would you mind, or do you think that feminine energy, even the positive kind, is still undervalued in the workplace? Great question to finish on.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a very subjective question. It obviously depends on the environment. However, I would say, yes, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think there's a lot of verbal, we care about inclusivity, and we care about collaboration, and we care about, creativity and all of that. But the actions, at least in my
understanding,
don't necessarily link up with that. And I think there's a disparity between, I think people are, understanding that they are need to and supposed to care about these things, and so they're giving it the verbal sort of attention, but when it comes down to the knuckle, they go right back into the masculine. We got to do, achieve. That's
great. That's a great response. That
something.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think you're right, Rachel. I think there's a genuine awareness and desire within organizations, definitely those that I work within, and there's lots of progress that is being making, but this is a journey. It's not a destination, right? It's an ongoing subject which needs to be addressed and given the right time and energy too. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Alex. I've just shared for everyone's benefit some QR codes. Obviously, we like to keep up to date, like Rachel, with regards to news and events. So please feel free to join our Crimson LinkedIn page if you want to see similar webinars in the future. And I think there's another session here, isn't there, Rachel, somewhere for us to work on together, because there's just so much more content that you could share to really dig into some of that detail, like you say. If anyone's interested or looks for any support with regards to their own career development within IT, leadership, please reach out to myself or my colleague Christine Deneen, who'd be glad to help you on your journey. And we've obviously got some opportunities that we're recruiting for, or if you need any support with any resourcing, don't hesitate to reach out. And also, lastly, there's Rachel's QR as well, if you want to connect with Rachel and obviously join some of the email distribution list that she shares hints and tips on a weekly basis. I think that would be a really, really good action to take from today. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll leave you for the rest of your day. Have a brilliant day, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Rachel. I really am very grateful for your time this morning.